Okay, so this is starting to come together now. I'm going to go back to, well, first of all, I want to rename this because it's not really, it's these flecks of dirt that I've got on there. So I'm going to change this so it reflects what it is. I'm going to call it flex dirt, like that. And not only that, I'm just going to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm going to change the height on here, just bring it up slightly like that. Was that too much? No, that's all subjective. That's cool. I quite like that. And yes, that's quite distracting, that blob there. Just have a play with the colour, the roughness. Global roughness on this base layer here. See what it looks like if you take it right out. So it kind of looks quite chalky when it's like that. I really like it. And I can just bring it back a bit. It looks like now, you know, if you put some paint on there, it would really absorb into the material. Whereas when it's on this side, it kind of looks a bit more. No, that's okay, that's fine. That's, you know, it's really up to you really what you want to do with that. Metallic is fine. It's just have a little play with the colour, see if we can change, see if it looks better. No, leave it like it was cool. Okay, that's cool. Dirt flecks, that's kind of grunge spots, just really just sort of playing with all the values now to get the best I can out of it. Yeah, just making sure I can see everything that I've put into this and you're not wasting any of these layers basically. Roughness is looking pretty good. Grunge is looking good. Dirt. Let's have a look at this. Don't make it too contrasty. Let's put it back to where it was. That's it. Get the contrast down. Yeah, if you're looking at it, that's cool. That's cool. And let's go back. Let's go to this roughness here. See, I've got a lot of global roughness values that I can play with, you know. So we've got this one here too, which is cool, and we've got the dirt flex scale here. No, roughness side, go back to this. Grunge concrete. See, that's just way too much there. Let's bring this down. I'll deal with that later, it's not a problem. Okay, I'm happy with the surface of that now. I think for now, let's just leave it and let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so I'm going to work on this color some more. It's a bit too flat and it's a bit too just all one color basically. So I'm going to give it a dark base. So we got this gradual sort of color up here. So above my color base here, I'm going to add another fill layer. I'm going to turn off height, rough, AL, normal, metal. So we just got our color. I'm going to leave it white now just so we can see what's going on. I'm going to change the name of it. Color. I'm going to call this gradient because that's what it's going to be. Gradient. Like so. Let's add a black mask. and in that black mask I'm going to add a generator. Now this generator empty, so we need to where is it? 3D, I think it's this. Yes, that's it. Okay, so now we can well, we want the darkness to come at the bottom, so we've got to flip, we're going to invert it for starters. Change the balance so that it's more at the bottom, adjust its contrast a little bit, and we can change this color so it's just balances out a little bit more. Okay, so let's position end, position start. That looks pretty good. Let's just go back to the color here now and change the color. Let's use a picker dropper. Oh, that was pretty good. Let's choose this color here. Let's make it quite dark so that we've got some flexibility with it. Yeah, quite like that, that's cool. And then let's just change the opacity so we can control it a bit more here. Okay, so I've jumped ahead a little bit. You know, watching me slide sliders is not that exciting. So I finished my gradient at the bottom there, quite happy with that now. And I have added site, and I have removed the roughness from my pottery because it was affecting my roughness channel here that I created, my roughness layer. So I've switched that off. And then I added two more color variations on top of the color base. So the first one is just an overall dirt layer, and all I did was add a color, add a fill layer, sorry, add a black mask, and put a dirt generator in there, and just select the colors and played with the values. And the second one was sort of a dust. So if you can imagine sort of dust falling down and sitting on top of this object, it would gather all the way in the top. And on the top, for that, I use a light. I basically added a fill layer, added a black mask, and then I added a generator, and put a light in it, and shone, directed the light down by adjusting these angles here. And then on top of that, the thing about generators and the mask layers is that they render in the same way as the whole system. So the whole system renders from the bottom upwards, and so do these. And then I just added a couple of grunge layers with some grayscale maps embedded into them. And this is the overall effect so far. I'm happy with this, and so what I'm going to do now is leave it at that for the base, and then carry on with another sort of set of layers for all the detail and the custom elements that I want to put onto this. Things, I want to sort of paint some patterns on it, put some sort of grooves. Let me show you some images that I found to give me some sort of guidance. These are off Pixabay, so it's it's perfectly fine. Let me see here, this image here, so you can see the sort of painted look you get on these images here. It's quite cool. And then the carving on some of these objects here, which is quite nice. I'm not going to copy this, I'm just going to use this as an idea base. I don't really like these big chunky things so much. I want to keep it fairly smooth and neat, basically. So So that's my go for the next layer, and that's custom to each of the objects basically. So I don't need, so I won't put them inside this layer, inside this set of layers I should say. So what I've done is I've created a folder at the top, I've called it pottery base, and I've copied all of these layers inside this folder, and I can now close that folder. And what I can also do is create you can right click, and I've already done this, you can see it down there, pottery base. You can right click on that folder and create a smart material. If you click on that like so, you get another smart material down here. Can you see that? I've got 2 pottery bases now, I don't need 2, so I'm going to right click and delete. So I've only got 1, which is the one I'm using. But I can also, if I expose my pottery bowl now, I can instantiate across to the bowl, and I don't think this is going to work particularly well. Let me see. So close that. If I right click on that, you use this here, instantiate across texture sets. So you click on that and you can now choose which set you want to copy it onto or instantiate it onto. Obviously I want the pottery bowl because I've already got it on here. If I do that and click OK, it should appear, and there it is. I didn't think it would work quite as well, and the problem with instantiating now is that I can't go in and edit this on a custom level really. So for example, let me just go and select my bowl now, my instantiated material. I can't open it because it's instantiated. There's basically a copy of another material coming from here onto there. So if I go back to my bottle now, whatever I change in here will change on there also, and that is a fantastic feature to have. It doesn't quite work for these 2 objects because I want to adjust that green dusty layer, obviously, because it's not working for the bowl, but it works quite nicely for the pot. If I come in here now, I'll give you a quick demonstration. If I change the color of it, for example, it changes on both objects. That's really cool. If I decrease the amount, let me see what we've got here. See, it disappears. It's quite nice in there, but it disappears too much up there, and I don't want it to disappear on there because it's quite nice the way it works on there. And yeah, so I'm not going to instantiate across. Basically, I am going to go back onto my bowl. I'm going to delete that instance, and I'm just going to drop it in from my smart materials shelf straight on there, and now I can go in and adjust the layers to whatever I want. Basically, I can adjust that balance that I was adjusting before, and it won't affect my pot. So you can work either way you want really. It's quite nice. I want to soften it up on there as well because it's a bit harsh. Let me see if I can do that. I can probably actually take down the color a little bit, which will soften it up. Yeah, there you go, that's better. Can reduce the opacity actually on the actual layer itself. I've got base color selected and I've got my color selected. I can go in and adjust the opacity of that, and that's quite nice, and it's looking very similar now, so that's cool. Okay, so one thing that doesn't work on this one is the gradient. Yeah, it's not having any effect. I could probably go in and adjust it, but I think it's too small an object compared to that long tall object for it to. Let's just have a play with some of the values here. No, it's not having much impact. I'm just going to delete that gradient layer off there as well, so it doesn't interfere in any way. So that's my base. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it like that for now, and now I'm going to start adding detail to both of these. Hey there. Okay, so before we go headlong into painting, I just want to show you the layers that I'm going to use to paint into and how I've set them up. So the first one is just in fact, I've got two layers here. One's for painting on, and one's for a rough, chunky, to take sort of chunks out of the edges of some places and things like that. But if we look at this paint layer first, it's just a standard paint layer. And I've got color, height and rough switched on. That's it, don't need any of the other things. I've got a white mask filled, and on that mask I've got a generator, dirt generator. And what this sort of setup gives me is this really nice sort of texture when I paint like this. If I go back into my layer here, I can paint and I get a sort of a nice sort of painty, rough painty feel to it, and it's really nice to do it. I'm using my Wacom as well, my Wacom screen. I'll put a link down to the kit that I use down below. Substance 2018 supports tablets more now, so I can switch on the pressure for lots of things, for size and for flow. And you know, if I just gently paint, it's really barely touching the screen, but that gives me a very subtle paint. But if I press harder, it really does work really well. And it's really hard to believe that we've come this far in technology and we can sort of paint on 3D objects at this sort of scale. It's amazing. You know, so I can just sit here and paint away fairly, you know, even if I up the res, it would be amazing. It would be, this is 2K, but if I put it on 4K, it would just be like painting in Photoshop. You know, it's just amazing. So anyway, so you can see the setup of the paint layers that I've got here, and that gives me a sort of like a, you know, got a slight bump on the paint as if it's been painted onto the surface of the object. Got a slight gloss, which gives me a good contrast between the paint and the surface of the pot, and the dirt layer gives me this sort of gritty look. So if I turn that on and off, you can see, you know, you can see through it slightly to the underneath, and that's quite nice. I like that. So that's kind of what I'm going to use. I might tone down the roughness of it slightly. If I go back in here, I think it's only on 0.3 at the moment, but if I make it slightly more rough, you won't see a change because you don't see it until you start painting again. So if I paint now next to that, so you can see the difference, paint over that, so that's significantly less shiny in fact now, but I do want some, so I'm going to just bring that back down again. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there for now, and we can always adjust it as we go along. So there you go, that's my paint layer. Okay, so the other layer at the top, it's going to give me, it's just really got this layer up here. It's got these chunks. I'm going to use it to take chunks out like this, using the height. So if I reduce the height on here, choose a different brush. You know, I can take big chunks out of it, and it looks like, oops, not inside, and it looks like, you know, it's been chipped away. And I want big chunks. I don't want to use some sort of dirt generator because I want sort of a big old chunky, you know, big chunk taken out of it. So this is fine. It gives me a bit more control over it as well, which I like. Gotta be careful you don't do it too much because it starts to look a bit strange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint away. I'm going to do all these little detail layers. I'm going to work on these 2 detail layers, and then I'll come back from time to time to show you and tell you what I'm working on. It's just that this bit's a little bit more tedious than the procedural stuff, so I'll see you in a moment. So here you can see I'm just working in some more chips and things. And I'm just painting into that layer on the rough layer. I've just switched on colour and turned off height, just so as I could add some colour, as if we can see the sort of material underneath where the chips have happened. So I thought that was quite nice to do. So it's starting to progress quite nicely. I'm doing some I'm just working into the height on the rough, the top layer, just to give me some sort of patterns, to make it look like it's been carved into the actual surface of the bottle, which is quite a nice little feature. Doesn't take long. It's quite. I mean, you can sculpt this kind of stuff in sort of ZBrush or 3D Coat or whatever package you use, but you know, for small surface details like this that are custom, you might as well just do it in here. That's what I find anyway. You can do whatever you want. You know, like I said before, it doesn't take that long, so it's very simple to do. As long as you have a base to work from, an idea of what you want, and even if you don't, it's a paint package. That's what painting is all about. Just experiment and just have fun. I do have a lot of fun using this package. So, you know, I wanted it to look pretty organic. This paint's a bit too intense, I think. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get to that. You can see I've added a levels layer on top of the dirt as well, just so I can adjust it. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to do some more patterns in between these two. Work some more on here. I might add a dirt layer to this rough just to break up these edges. Let's try adding a black mask here. Add a white mask. Generate on top of this. Some dirt. See, that's better. It kind of breaks it up a little bit, and it's only doing it where this is. Let's have a look at this. It's only affecting where the paint, where the height map is basically. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm not going to go any further with this. I'm not going to do the plate for now. I'm going to probably maybe finish it up in another video. But you get the idea. I hope that's hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful. And if you want to see more of these, head on over to Udemy and check out my course on environment design, creating environments for games. You can find a link for that below, and there's a discount down there as well. Yeah, jump on board and check it out. It covers lots of things: modeling and Substance Painter and scene building in Unity, and it's very good. So I'll see you in the next video.